Which shift made the most money and who was on duty? In this video, we'll find out in 3 simple steps. Then list the employees who worked that shift. Let's look at the final output of this query. Our final output will have shift ID, the shift code, staff ID, each staff member assigned to that shift, and shift date, the date of the shift, and total shift revenue, money made during that shift. Before writing the query, let's first understand the tables we are going to use for this query. So the first table is a rota table. This table contains date, shift ID, and staff ID. We'll need those 3 columns from that table. Let's look at the second table, orders. We'll use this orders table to calculate revenue by joining it with menu items. Also, we'll use the created column and quantity from this table. Menu items. We will calculate total revenue. To do that, we will use the item price from this table. Now, shift table. This table contains information about shifts. So we will use start time and end time from this table. We'll join this table with other tables using shift ID. So let's start writing the query. Before, if you haven't subscribed the channel, please subscribe it. So first what we will do is to select shift ID and its state from rota table. We'll start with select statement. So select and from rota table we'll select shift ID to identify each shift by its code, also its data. So we will represent rota table with R. So r.shift ID and r.shift data. So in output each shift data, so we will name it as shift data, r.data as shift data. For revenue, we will multiply quantity with its item price by joining orders table with menu items table. So in orders table we have quantity column, right? And we will join it with menu items by item ID, and we'll calculate total revenue by multiplying item price with quantity. We will take sum of it. This will ensure that we sum all lines in that shift. So sum orders dot quantity multiply by multiply sign menu items dot item price. This will give us total revenue for each particular shift. Let's name it total shift revenue as mentioned in the output as total shift revenue. Well, in from clause we will write from orders alias O. We can also use another table here in place of orders, but I believe orders is great choice. So from orders O, now in orders we have item ID, so we will join these orders with menu items using that item ID. So join menu items alias mi on o dot order ID, item ID should be equal to menu items at item ID. This will ensure we get item price for the matching item ID. If you look at the rota table, we only have date column. To join orders table using that date column. So from orders table we will use a created date timestamp column and we will extract date from it. This will ensure that we match each order to the calendar date of the rota. So we will write it as join rota R on orders dot created data. Now created date is a timestamp column, so we need date only. For that we will use 2 columns and then date keyword to extract date from it equal to rota date column. So we need total shift revenue for each shift id. For that we need to group it by shift id and data. So group by shift id, rota.shift id and order data. Also, if you are using aggregate function, you have to use group by clause. Let's run this part. Now you can see three columns: shift id, shift data and its total revenue. Now we need to ensure that the revenue should be calculated between start time and end time of each shift. For that we'll use a shift table. This table has start time and end time. So in where clause we will mention it. First we need to join shift table with rota table using shift id. So join shift alias s on rota.shift id should be equal to shift.shift id. Finally, we need to write a condition in where clause, and you know where clause comes after joins. So in where clause we will say orders.created date and we'll extract time from created date, not data this time. So if you look at the orders table, we have created a column. We will extract time from it. For that we'll use two colons and time keyword. So we will write as order data created data, two colons for typecasting, time between shift.start time and end time. Now this condition will ensure that we calculate total revenue or total shift revenue between start time and end time, not beyond or before it. Shift dot end time. In this where clause, start time and end times are shift times. So let's run this part of the query to see what it returns. You can see it returns the same three columns, but right now the condition is applied and shift 1 has the highest revenue, 582. Now we have to find staff for this shift, then our query will be completed. Now first we will convert this output into a table. For that we will use the CTE common table expression. We'll start with case and shift revenue, that's a CTE name, or you can say a temporary table name, as and into braces we'll put this code. So the code comes under the CTE. We'll select the whole code and press tab to give it a better structure. We need employees for the highest revenue shift. So here now we will assign staff IDs to those shifts. And finally we will select the top revenue shift and its employees. Now the shift revenue CTE will now act as temporary table for us. Well, so now let's start writing the code. If you look at the row table, it has a staff ID and shift ID. Also the CTE we have shift ID. We will join both the shift revenue CTE and rota table using shift ID. So shift revenue, that's a short name SR of shift revenue dot shift ID, and from rota table we will select staff ID. So this is staff ID in rota table, or data staff ID. Now we will select its shift data from shift revenue. So shift revenue dot shift data and finally we will select its total shift revenue. In from clause we will write from shift revenue alias SR. SR is the short name, right? So from shift revenue, then we will join a rota table on shift ID, because both shift revenue and rota table has shift IDs, so we can join it. Well, so join rota R on shift revenue dot shift ID equal to rota dot shift ID. Both table have also date columns, so we can also mention it in this join as a condition. So this is the date column in rota table, and also we have date column in shift table. For that we will write and shift revenue dot shift date should be equal to rota dot date. This condition will adds up extra layer of authenticity. Now let's run this part of the query to see if the staff ID is assigned or not. So select all and run it. You can see in the output we have successfully assigned staff ID to each shift. Finally, what we will do is to select highest revenue shift and its staff ID. Then our query will be completed. Our goal is to now select the maximum revenue shift, and then we will get staff IDs for it. For that we will use or write another CTE to get maximum shift revenue, and we will write it as max revenue as two braces, and here we will write as select. To select the maximum revenue row, we need to use max function in SQL. This will select the top number of row from total shift revenue. So max total shift revenue, and we'll call it as maximum revenue from shift revenue. If you are using the second city in your code, you don't need to use with keyword. Now we have maximum revenue. Let's run this part of the code. Okay, you can clearly see that shift ID 1 has the highest revenue. So in join we will use a join as condition in the select statement to select only the maximum revenue row, right? So here what we will write is we will join maximum revenue with total shift revenue, right? So join maximum revenue this city alias MR on shift revenue. The total shift revenue should be equal to maximum revenue dot maximum revenue. This will select only one row, the maximum revenue, right? And this join act as a condition. So SR the total shift revenue should be equal to maximum MR dot maximum revenue. Let's run the whole query. You can see shift 1 have the highest revenue, and the staff that was assigned to it is 1 and 3 and it matches the exact output as I shown you earlier. 582 is the highest revenue for shift 1 and staff ID 1 and 3. The query is finally completed. Please subscribe the channel and hit the like button. See you in the next video. For now, take care.